Okay, so welcome to a follow-up episode on AI Line today from Datopian. I'm Rufus Pollock, I'm the founder, and I've got Anu, our Chief Technology Officer, with us. And we're going to talk more today about kind of Gastown-like things, which is really like how do we orchestrate or start having AI agents kind of manage together executing work. And I was just asking you before, Anu, I asked you, has Gastown been accelerating your work? And you said, yes, 2 months ago. And then you were saying, but maybe today, if you were starting today, you might try something else. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, so 2 months ago, I think Gastown was, as I said, a little unique, and it really changed the way I was working. Today, a lot of other software, was created. So, for example, you can do a lot of things with Claude Code. You can, have Codex desktop, and also there was, other software around orchestrating multiple AI agents, having different roles for different AI agents, and building a new software like from idea to like end software using multiple AI agent workflow.
I think I've got a use for me. I mean, maybe I could pick an example at the moment that I just go through, which is, let's say just now, I'm like, we're researching, a new CRM for the business. I've got this just idea, or a need. Research new CRM or ultimately maybe get a new CRM. And I've got even then an idea of maybe try out this product. This is the kind of stuff in the old days, it goes into a task and the team runs it. This is just one example. Another would be like, oh, I need to fix the logo on TaskGraph.dev, which is a little app I've created, or I want to merge TaskGraph and Inbox together, the Inbox app I built. I'm just giving real world examples. And what I'm often looking for is something that would be managing more of my to-do list at that level. And then, or giving me a kind of like control pane for that part of my life. The equivalent of my high level of my to-do list. I mean, it's why I even created TaskGraph and why I was interested in beads is I wanted a kind of graph view. I could be like, okay, I'm working on project at, Project X, what is the next task to do on these things? Does it need planning? Often what I want to know is like, hey, does that need planning to a point it can be handed off to AI? So for example, the CRM thing, I probably should sit down, for 10 to 20 minutes, do a kind of actual analysis session with an AI plan mode. And then out of that would have a kind of spec document of what I'm looking for, which could then maybe be, even that kind of research task could be handed off to an AI. Go and get me, prices, research features. Nowadays, maybe even go and subscribe, go and sign up and get on a free trial and see and send me some screenshots, the kind of things that I would normally do at the beginning. I'm kind of like interested because when you say Codex or Claude, I don't ever see that kind of control pane experience of like, okay, what I guess is the dream is like an AI agent workflow integrated with my task manager. That's what I'm kind of dreaming of, I guess I talk out loud. That I want something that combines like linear almost, or like a great task tracker with this kind of graph view that Beads has of like the subtask in a good way. And what are the states of those things? And particularly where I'm a blocker, like, oh, you need to do more planning, So I'm just kind of wondering, like, what do you do on that? And if I pick those concrete examples, how would you go about that? Would you just start like threads in Codex or Claude Code? And then how do you track what's, I'm getting to a point sometimes like, oh yeah, there's that session I meant to finish where I was halfway through planning when I went to bed. I need to, I can't, there's no real way for me to mark in Claude Code or Claude Desktop or Codex Desktop. Oh yeah, this is a thread that's in progress where I'm still working things through. This one is done. I can archive things. But yeah, I also want to be able to search all my old sessions. I'm sort of like, oh yeah, 2 months ago I was working on that, and I had a session where I fixed that, and these things seem very in the kind of infancy where I kind of want all of my chat sessions I ever did to be kind of just archived somewhere that I can search, but not getting in my way. In a way, a good issue tracker can have the past, but I'm focused on what's right now. Do you know anything that is kind of that integration? Do you know what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, exactly. I think I personally experienced that as well, and it gets even more difficult when you need to collaborate with somebody, right?
Right.
So, to me, it happens very, I think, regularly, where I have done some research on one topic, and you don't even remember if you did it in Claude or in ChatGPT or in Gemini. And then you also, if you've done it on Codex desktop, it wouldn't appear in your ChatGPT interface, and and yeah,
Yes.
that's getting difficult. And I think currently the only key for that is to have a sort of practice on use one certain way. So again, if you are wanting to use Gastown, then stick with Gastown, or if you want to use another orchestrator, then you have to stick with it, so that you have one place for all your backlog.
Sure.
So,
But
but
it seems to me like a solvable problem. I mean, we discussed
yeah,
a couple of things. So when I even was Googling yesterday, or you could say ChatGPTing or Clauding, was like, hey, why do my Claude CLI threads not show up in the Claude Code desktop app? Like you can't, if you start stuff in Claude CLI on CMux, you can't see it in the Claude Code, and
yeah,
similarly in Codex, I think, as far as I can tell, though that's more not so clear to me. But it's just
yeah,
like, and I found that, it's a well-reported issue in Claude Code, and there's some even hack where you can sort of have them show up if you go and basically somehow prompt to copy something over. But it's just like, that seems, one thing is just being able to see your threads. But what we're kind of saying is you kind of want threads integrated with an issue tracker, like where where you are in that stuff. And that's sort of what I had the story that's what kind of Beads is doing for me, but I'm not sure, is that the case, or not? Like, it doesn't seem, does it provide that kind of control plane view? And as you say, I've also noticed the other thing I wanted, and this is why I started TaskGraph as a project. TaskGraph was a bit like Beads, but the idea was I want to be able to interface with like GitHub or Linear or the things when I'm collaborating with people. So I want to kind of unified vision across projects and across different issue trackers of where I'm at. So I'm like, oh yeah, on Data Hub, this is the top 3 next issues. On, Portal.js, it's this. On sorting out my driving license, it's this, or whatever it might be. But some of that might be in GitHub because that's where we're collaborating and where we're tracking issues. Some of it might be in, just local markdown files. But I wanted a kind of control plane across that was relatively simple, which is not in theory that hard to do, because you just download everything, put it in an SQLite database or whatever it is, and kind of regularly update it because the source of truth is somewhere else. But I've just kind of, I don't know, I'm just like kind of fantasizing, but this is what I really see I want. And particularly then of tracking where am I in the bottleneck? Where do I need to do some planning work? And where is stuff now ready to hand off into the AI to go do work? And then when it needs review again, oh yeah, the AI should be telling me, oh, you need to come and really check now. I've done a bunch of stuff. What do you think? Anything like that out there, or is that kind of?
yeah. So I think yes and no. So Beats has the UI, which
Yeah.
looks like a usual issue tracker. You can have a board as well.
Yeah.
But I think the main problem here is to be able to track everything in one single backlog,
Right.
Which is I'm not sure. It's more about how people work, because I think it's common when you do some ChatGPT on your phone, for example, right?
Yes.
And then you switch to Claude. Again, it can be on your phone, and then you are working on your laptop. It's all happening with your account, your personal account, but still,
Yeah.
it's in different interfaces. And for some reason, yes, it doesn't give you even within ChatGPT, you cannot have one consolidated view at the moment. At least I don't know how to
Yes.
do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many basic. Sometimes I'm going to have a bit of a rant, but like the fact Claude does it right, but like in ChatGPT, I can't even see the dates. They're in the API. If you go dig through the API calls, if you're using, for example, the web interface, they have created dates and like maybe even update dates, which would be super useful. But they also do weird things like if you just go and sometimes rename a chat, it has the updated date becomes today. You know, but just base things like what I would love to be able to see my history and have a decent search history of my chat. Okay, well, maybe we can dream, but this kind of control plane, even a basic version of it, seems to me quite useful. And particularly, I guess what I want to reiterate, it's not a control plane of everything, but particularly what is in my kind of ideas and shaping. Given we're saying the kind of gateway now, the kind of the constriction is often one's shaped work that's good enough to then AI to implement. How I think there's two ways. One is how do you track that for yourself, oneself, and secondly, are there any AI tools that help with that? I mean, I think that's the next frontier. How do you do? You know, I mean, I could give a really simple end example at the moment if I were to share my screen, which is. I think if I share my screen, I've got this small like little mini project here called TaskGraph. Yeah. And as you can tell, the visualization here, you might not be able to see it, but there's actually supposed to be an animated visualization. You might suddenly see stuff, but it's kind of broken, right? The SVG rendering of this did not work for whatever reason. Like it's put this weird background that I don't want. I don't know. Yeah. It just is a good example where AI just kind of clearly like lost it a little bit of what it was trying to do. And the thing at the moment is it's kind of obvious to me, but what in my experience, I actually had an experience of trying to fix this a couple of times. Trying to tell the AI like what I want in a way that it understands is painful. But even like this is a good example. I just want to log almost to say, hey, this is broken. And then I'd love it that the AI could almost go look at the page with a very simple prompt and like kind of try and figure out what was wrong and then write back to me, here's my first pass at a kind of product requirements document or even just a short description of what needs fixing. I could then approve that and then it would go into like superpowers planning mode. You know, I could try it with superpowers, but particularly something like this also, I can, for something which is very small fix, I can end up spending like 20 minutes trying to kind of spec to the AI what I want. But, you know, maybe that's life. But it's just a good example where I would love where I could almost just take a screenshot, dump it and say, can you go and figure out this, you know, the prompt to get this corrected for me? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but those kind of issues come up quite a bit, I find, of often even smaller issues like UI issues or others that then are quite painful to get to a kind of clear spec to the AI to solve.
Yeah, I think this is common. Sometimes, you know, starting like I think the similar issue when you are working on existing project and you need to revamp it, for example, it's easier to start from scratch sometimes.
Yes.
For the same reason, because doing some small changes, I don't know, it becomes very difficult.
Well, yeah, that's one point. I guess my point to you also is there anything where you find like, is it just using superpowers, Obra's superpower skill is the best way? But I would love to almost just send a screenshot there and say, tell me what you think is wrong and like what you would fix. Because often I find with text, for example, right now, I find this when I give it something, for example, a piece of prose, like something I've written, that is often really great at, you know, just saying, hey, here's how I recommend improving it. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Or maybe I don't agree with it, but it's really helpful. But yeah, it's more like, I think one of the things AI to help write requirements is that thing, which I know what superpowers is partly doing. It's prompting you with questions till it gets to a design spec.
Yeah.
But I think there's something there where, that can be somewhat laborious sometimes. Well, okay, for today, that's been a great outline. And so what would you, just to kind of conclude, you were saying, we started by saying, well, I wouldn't maybe use Gastown if I was starting today. So from today, what would you start with? You'd start with Codex or Claude Code with subagents. Is that what you do?
Yeah, like whatever LLM you're already using, subscribed, I think that would be first start, because you don't like, I think you can start with few, you know, AI agents rather than, you don't need dozens of them right away.
Right. But what about beads? Like, how do you replace what? Because my issue is if I'm trying to task multiple elements, how do they know what task to work on? How do you prompt it? Is that stored in GitHub? How is that stored between sessions and things like that?
It's in your, it basically creates a local database, right? And you will have a .beads directory per.
No, but if you're not using beads, or do you use beads along with Codex still? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I think
okay, so you still just use beads. but you tell
Exactly.
your AI agent to use beads. So that you'd recommend. You'd still recommend using beads for sure.
Some issue tracker, not necessarily beads, but I think it's good to have an issue tracker.
Okay, well, that's a good session for next time. What AI aligned issue trackers should we use? Well, anyway, for today, that was another great session of like, what are the limitation? You know, if you're trying to do multi-agent coding or like run multiple horses at once, were to pull your tractor forward. What would you do? And that was great. So thank you very much, Anu, and look forward. Stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram or Substack or elsewhere if you want to hear more from AI Learn today about what we're discovering as we use AI and how you can use it more effectively and efficiently. All the best till next time.
Thank you. Bye.